So here is my attempt at a comprehensive review that compares the two versions of the Type-94 Shiranui as it appears in Volks' A3 line. They did a little double dipping, which has left some fans confused. And you can kind of tell, even though these figures look incredibly similar, this one on the right here is the better one. It has been almost completely redesigned from the one on the left here, which is their original release back in 2007. Again, other than the fact that this guy's got a UN marking on his shoulder, can't really tell the difference between the two. I'm going to get into the figures in a little bit, but first we're going to talk about the packaging, because most of us are buying these on online sellers, and that's what we're going to see first. So here, this one right here, this is the original A3 Shiranui that they released back in 2007. This is part of the first wave, and they actually did 3 different variants. Each one, as a regular retailer release, they all had 3 digits in their number. All the variants were you had 2, 4, which is this one, and 6. And they were all the same figure that basically just came with different weapons, and they also had different characters on the back there. Hey, class rep. Anyway, so yeah, these were back in 2007. This is the original version. And most Shiranui toys you see out there are based on this one. So yeah, this was kind of their first foray into the line. This was the second version of the Shiranui that they made. This is called the Joint Strike Package. It actually does say it in English on the box there. This was a limited release, only 2 digits in the for the number, 2009. That's how they do all the limited releases. They give you the year and then a 2-digit number. And on the back, you've got pictures of basically everybody, including the bratty savior right there. And this one also, as you can actually see, going back to the front there, this comes with everything that the Shiranui figure can carry. This one only comes with whatever it says it's spec'd out for. Like this one is the gun sweeper and gun interceptor specification. So that's that version. So yeah, that's kind of how it worked. I didn't actually take all the guns out because now I have so many of them. But yeah, so just kind of look out for that. That's how we're doing it there. Alright, so going back to the figures themselves for a bit. Again, can't really tell them apart. I will say that box you saw before, this guy didn't come in that box. This particular figure. What actually came in the box was this one. So a funny thing happened on the way to producing these figures. Volks kind of screwed up. This one, the quality control was a little bit worse than on the other ones. You can kind of see his head markings are a little rougher. There's some excess glue. And the biggest sin of them all is that the cockpit hatch was painted in dark blue. And you can see it on these two. The cockpit hatch is actually painted in light blue. So what they decided to do was issue an entire new figure that was this one. That was actually in the box. I bought this guy used, and this guy came actually in his own box, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, you got this. You could actually send away and get a replacement figure for the Joint Strike Package, and this is just the figure. It's just this guy with splayed hands. He came with no mouth pylons. He did have the little thingies that go on the back of his knees that you've seen. But yeah, so it's a little bit of inadvertent army building because I got the original and also the replacement figure. So yeah, that was kind of cool. That's probably why the shipping was higher than I thought it was going to be. So if you're looking to buy these things, just see if you can ask the seller if they actually do have this. I wasn't expecting to get this. I didn't even know that this is actually how they did it. So yeah, it was a nice plain white box that the figure came in. So yeah, now let's look at those figures properly. I'm going to start off, put these two back together, and I'm going to start off looking at this guy first. Okay, so this is the original release of the Type-94 Shiranui, one of 2 figures that were released in the initial A3 line, the first wave back in 2007, and it kind of shows. I think the biggest thing with this is that it looks great, but as we kind of look at the articulation, it's kind of lacking in that area, and that's really its biggest flaw. Actually, before I go into articulation, let's talk about a really well-articulated figure that is also a Type-94 Shiranui. Here's the Revoltech. So yeah, you can kind of see same character, different figures, 2 different companies. So yeah, this one has kind of a nice or gray blue, and this one has a more like greenish blue for its main color. But yeah, they're both pretty good. This guy is very common, so if you like Volks, you can pick him up. Okay, so the main figure. Articulation. You've got head turns, and in fact it just kind of turns on a little swivel and pops out really easily. Arms can move. They can move all the way around. And if you want, you can... Well, actually, I don't think you can do that on this one. Anyway. You can actually take these off, though. These come off pretty easily, the shoulder pauldrons. And they have this little door, which constantly is opening up. These things are hard plastic. That's a little door where you mount the missile launchers. But you can kind of look, let's look at the main shoulder itself. So this just moves around. It's got an A-lock joint in there. There is a bicep swivel. It's incredibly limited. It does like that. I've seen on other people's pictures that it can move a bit more, but it's really tight on mine. I don't know if they actually adjusted that for some later variants of the Shiranui that are based on this version, but yeah, he can't really turn his arms inward or outward. It's kind of a shame. And similarly, you got a pretty basic elbow joint right there. Waist joint doesn't really move that much. It just kind of goes a little bit like this, and you can't actually pull it up either, so you can't really do that if you wanted to. Wrists are the simple, a bunch of pegs, peg swivel. Jumpy nuts on the back, they use the basic, just one piece here that lets them move around a little bit. It's actually kind of detented on the inside, so these things actually do softly click in place. The skirt armor, it also has that soft click to it. It's jointed right in the middle here, and it just sort of like is difficult to move. Because as you move the thing, you can also move that. And also watch as one of those little leg fill-in things, the knee fill-in parts, which are incredibly tiny on the Shiranui, to the point where it's like, why did they even include these? But yeah, take those off. Yeah, so that's kind of how this guy, his articulation works, and you sort of have to move these separately. And this is one of those figures where it's almost easier to just wiggle these off. And you can see there's the peg, which is slightly squared off. Kind of take this off, put it in place, and then move the leg, because you can still get some articulation out of it. It's not that good though, because and you can see stuff just falling off all over the place. I mean, the joint is pretty good in there. You can see the knee's actually pretty good. You get a double bend right there. The feet, they've got an ankle tilt, and there's also another A-lock joint. Kind of moves like that. But what I was trying to say is that there actually is a decent outward motion on the hips, but they are kind of blocked by the fact that the skirt armor has that big joint in the middle that just kind of hits the top part of the thigh right there. But overall, this guy, I mean, he poses not terribly dynamically, but he is very stable, and he does look good. So yeah, it just kind of speaks to Volks kind of feeling out the line. I mean, not a bad figure, but not super great. So yeah, this is kind of like the most dynamic you can get him, and if you give him some weapons, he looks a bit better. Alright, so we're actually going to look into the second figure, and he's going to blow you away a bit with the articulation. They redid the whole thing. Alright, let's take a look and see what Volks learned in the 2 years between the original Shiranui and this joint stack package version. Starting off with the head articulation, they added an extra ball joint at the base where the neck meets the head, so that you can actually move it without moving the whole head itself. So, but you still have the swivel joint, but now it just has an extra joint on the top there. The shoulder pauldrons, they actually have their own joint, and they can move up and down by themselves. And what this allows you to do is actually get the arm out, because it has its own A-lock joint as well. There's basically 2 joints in there. You have a much better bicep swivel because of how it connects to the A-lock joint that's in there. You still have the moving shoulder just like that. There's also an A-lock joint in here which let the whole thing tilt up and down. And also the whole thing can move in and out a lot. They gave it a lot of clearance in there. The only problem with this is that the little peg that the shoulder actually goes on is kind of small, and it might come out while you're posing it, but just kind of stick it back on there. They redid the sculpt on the elbows here just to let it bend up a little bit more easily. So that's a good thing. And one thing that I definitely appreciate is this guy isn't as much of a noisemaker because the little doors in his shoulder pauldrons are nice and stiff now, and they don't move in and out by themselves when you pick up the toy and just make a lot of clacking noises. The waist joint's a lot better. You can actually pull it up to get it over some of this detailing that's down there. You actually pull the whole thing off if you want to. But yeah, you can get this thing all the way around, and it even now has an app crunch. So this guy can actually, if he wants, he can be like, oh, what's up there? And just like that. The skirt armors have been pretty much redesigned, because instead of having the joint right in the middle, they are actually jointed at the back with a little metal bar, so they move up and down very easily, and they also kind of pull out just a little bit as well. So they'll just move naturally with the leg as you're posing it. So it's a lot easier to get this guy to bring his legs like all the way forward and also all the way out, because there's no longer that big block in the way that the top of the thigh hits into. Again, you still have the very good knee joint, so that's pretty good. And the ankles, you still have good ankle tilt, but now there's a double joint in here instead of just a single joint. So you can see there's actually a whole double joint right in there. So that's how that works. All the clicky A-lock joints in this guy, and as a result, this guy just has a much easier time posing. He can look a lot more natural when posing. He can definitely kneel down, which the other one can do, but it's a lot harder for it to do it. And I'm actually just going to put this guy into a kneeling pose just to show you that, yeah, you can totally do it. You do have to move the jump units out of the way, and I should probably talk about them. They redid this whole thing. Now you have a pair of A-lock joints in here. Only problem is that this blue part, maybe it can be kind of loose. Again, but that's pretty easy to fix. It's just thickening the pegs, but now you have all these A-lock joints in there that let you just move the jump units all the way around. I actually kind of prefer it the other way just because it's a little less complex and not as messy looking, but it's still kind of cool that they tried to beef the whole thing up. So yeah, this guy can kneel down very nice, very easily, and this guy can just sort of do that. Yeah, he can sort of finagle it and he can be a little more upright, but this guy can just, hey, I'm kneeling. This guy is like, yeah, I don't want to pick up some loose change, but yeah, that's kind of how that shakes down between the two. Again, I gotta caution you guys, I'll bring this guy back. Most of the Shiranui, like regular Shiranui, not the Shiranui second toys that Volks made, are based on this one. So all this lovely articulation is only in the Joint Strike package version, and it's only in another version which was like the second release of Sagiri's Imperial Army Gray Shiranui. So that was like number 036 or no, 034 or something like that in the line. So yeah, kind of be aware of that. So yeah, all the other ones, like Yuya's special one that comes with the big rail cannon, the Russian camo version, that's all this guy. So again, if you want the articulation, you go for Joint Strike package, hands down. So we're going to talk a little bit about accessories when we come back. So let me bring this comprehensive review to an end by talking about accessories. Most of these things you've seen before, but so I'm just going to go over a couple of the things that you haven't seen. Alright, so I'm cheating totally because I just have all three of them showing as many accessories as they can. So this guy right here, this is the old one, but as you can see, they are all compatible with all of the accessories. They didn't change that much when they updated the mold. So the one thing this guy can show off is these shoulder missile launchers. Pretty basic thing here. You just got the main shoulder unit and the little fire control thing on the side there, and it opens up, and there's a bunch of missiles in there. Isn't that cool? That's for blast guards. Again, if you want to see like all the different configurations, please check out my review. And you know, you got all the other stuff like the sword in the back and all that crap. Put this guy for side. And it does come with my favorite weapon, the big pharmacy style long range version of their little machine pistol thing they have. Their P90 thing, so yeah, that's pretty cool. You got the hand with the knife, all that stuff. The mount pylons on the back there. And with this guy here, you can see he's got the shield. The only difference this time is it has the UN marking on it, so that you can totally tell that the alien beatdowns are sanctioned by Kofi Annan, or former Secretary Kofi Annan. Anyway, so I just wanted to show you that in the back here, I did give the old jump units to the newer mold. They are compatible and works pretty well. And also I swapped out their heads, so the replacement body that had the rougher paint on the head crest now just has the head from the older mold. So it doesn't have the extra joint in the neck, but it still works. So yeah, now I just have the two good ones with all the articulation. This guy can just be like the spare and just uses other things. I do wish I had another set of jump units so they could all be fully outfitted, but anyway. So again, if you're looking to get one of these figures, you probably want the one with more articulation. There are 3 versions of that figure. There's this one, the Joint Strike package version. There is the other gray version, which is number 034. Pretty sure it's 034. It might be 036. I did write it down on my text review, so please check that out. And there's also the TMC Type-94 Shiranui. And the TMC figures, if you recall, when I did my review of the Strike Eagles, TMCs are basically like they took the same mold and they did it in this waxier, slightly harder PVC plastic with a few or less accessories. The TMZ Shiranui does not come with all this stuff. It just comes with a couple of things. But yeah, the TMC figures are pretty good. I mean, they're already cheaper MSRP, so you can get them a bit cheaper on the aftermarket. And they come in the nice vertical like a white box that has like a little tiny window so you can see the robot inside. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. And also, incidentally, people are asking like, what stand can you use to display these guys? Tom C Stage Act 5. They work pretty well with tactical surface fighter figures, so that totally works there. And we got a whole mess of UN robots right here. So anyway, this has been Andrew of CollectionDX.com doing another big old Muv-Luv review. Thanks, Volks.